All right, so you can do a quick warm-up, practice solving some equations. This one we're going to divide by 4. We get x equals 13. Here we would subtract 3 from both sides, get x equals negative 10. So just make sure you keep up with your skills on solving equations. This unit we're going to start solving some inequalities. So we need to know the difference between an equation and an inequality. So one of them is that an equation has only one answer, typically, and inequalities have a range of numbers as their solution, not just one. So when we graph a linear inequality, usually we have a number line, and we have something like x is greater than 1, so we have 1 on the number line, place an open circle, and an arrow to the right side, which is all the numbers greater. And so all the numbers in this area represent all the solutions, all the values that are greater than 1, right? So again, when we graph, if you can get the variable on the left side of the inequality, then we can follow this sign chart. If we have a less than symbol, then you're going to shade to the left, a greater than to the right, and without the equal part, you're going to leave open circles. For the last two, you have less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, you're going to have a closed circle. Less than or equal to is left, greater than or equal to is right. So this is less than, this is greater than, this is less than or equal to, and this is greater than or equal to. Right? So if we practice solving some of these, 2x minus 3 is less than 5. We would add 3 to both sides. So we get 2x is less than 8. Divide by 2, and we get x is less than 4. So we come to our number line, we put a 4. Because it's a less than, we need an open circle. And then less than is always to the left. So it'd be all the values to the left of 4 on the number line. Number 2, remember when we have variables on both sides, we should move the variables first. Always move the smaller one. So I'm going to move the n by subtracting it. So I have negative 2, and then 2n minus n is plus n is greater than or equal to. On the other side, my n's cancel, and I'm left with a negative 4. And then I need to add 2 to both sides. So I get n is greater than or equal to negative 2. So I come to my number line, I put this value, negative 2 on the number line. I'm going to do a closed circle this time because it's greater than or equal to. And then I'm going to go to the right. Number 3, trying to solve for x, so I need to move the 2/3 first. So subtract 2/3 from both sides. So I get x divided by 3 is greater. And if I do 1 minus 2/3, well, you can think about 1 as being 3 over 3. And we subtract 2 over 3, so we're left with 1 over 3. So 1 minus 2/3 is 1/3. And then the opposite operation here to isolate x would be to multiply by 3. So multiply both sides by 3. On the left, it cancels. You're left with x is greater. And then on the right, it actually cancels too because 1/3 times 3 is just 1. So x is greater than 1. We're going to have an open circle at 1 and shade everything to the right. We have to be careful when we multiply or divide both sides by a negative number. You have to flip your inequality symbol. So look at this first example. I would solve this by first adding 5 to both sides. So negative 2y is less than 12. But now I have to divide by negative 2. When I divide by negative 2, I have to flip, because I did this thing up here, I have to flip my inequality. So negative 2 divided by negative 2 leaves me just with y, but instead of less than, I need to make it greater than. 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. So I put a negative 6 on my number line, open circle, and because it's greater than, it's going to go to the right. We look at the next example, negative 2x is greater than 4. We're going to divide both sides by negative 2. So the negative 2 cancels, but I did what I set up there. I have to flip my inequality. So I have x now is less than negative 2. So 4 divided by negative 2 was negative 2. So on my number line, I have a negative 2 with an open circle, and I want everything to the left of it because it's less than that. All right, the next one. I have negative 1/2 times x. So another way to get rid of that coefficient is to multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal means flip this over. So I'm going to do a negative 2 over 1 multiplied on both sides. And so when I do that on the left, negative 2 over 1 times 1 over negative 2 just gives me 1. But I multiplied by a negative, so I have to flip the inequality. I just made up a new word. Flip the inequality. So I'm left with x is greater than or equal. And then 3 times negative 2 over 1 is negative 6. So go to the number line, negative 6 needs a closed circle, and then everything to the right. All right, when we write inequalities from words, we need to understand what what words are and how it tells us which inequality to use. So I have some words filled in here for you for less than. You might see the words less than, smaller than, below, or fewer than. If it's less than or equal to, which is here, we're going to do at most, no more than, can exceed, and maximum. Greater than, so that's our symbol here. You could use those words. You could say more than, bigger than, or above. And then greater than or equal to could be at least, minimum, no less than. There are other phrases you could use. This is just a good idea of where to start. All right, if we're going to translate these verbal sentences into algebraic inequalities, we have x is at most. So we see at most is in the less than or equal to, so we say x is less than or equal to 50. The next one says the sum, so it means we're going to add some things, of 5x and 2x is at least. So at least is a greater than or equal to. So we're going to say 5x plus 2x is greater than or equal to 70. Last one says the maximum value of 4x minus 6 is 54. So 4x minus 6 maximum means we should use the less than or equal to, and then 54. Right? Translate and solve now. So we're going to do the same thing, but now we're actually going to solve these. So 6 less than a number. So be careful here. This is taking a number and comparing it to a variable. That's not an inequality. That's just a subtraction. So a number could be x, and 6 less than that means I'm subtracting 6 from it. Now I see is greater than. So that's my inequality. And then 4 is what it's greater than. Then I could solve this by adding 6 to both sides. So I have x is greater than 10. So we draw our number line, put 10 on our number line, open circle to the right. All right, number 2, twice a number increased by, so that means we're adding, 6 is at least 35. So twice the number would be like 2n. Increased by is adding 6, and then at least is a greater than or equal, and now we have 35. So subtract 6 from both sides. So we have 2n is greater than or equal to 29. And then we're going to divide both sides by 2, but we didn't divide by a negative, so we don't have to flip. So we just have n is greater than 29 divided by 2 is 14.5. So on our number line, we're going to put a 14.5, open circle, and to the right. All right, so now we're going to go a little bit deeper and do a little bit more application. We have the product of 9 and x is greater than 6 more than the product of 3 and x. So the product of 9 and x means 9 times x. And we have a greater than symbol. 6 more than means I'm going to add 6 to something. And what the something is the product of 3 and x. So 3x plus 6. So I'm going to move my x's together first by subtracting the 3x. So I have 6x is greater than 6. Divide both sides by 6, and I get x is greater than 1. So I'm going to draw my number line, 1, open circle to the right. Next one, Joe needed $100 to buy a graphing calculator for her math class. Her neighbor will pay $5 per hour to babysit, and her father just gave her $10 for mowing the lawn. What's the minimum number of hours she's going to need to babysit in order to buy the calculator? Well, she's getting $5 for every hour. 5 times 8 is how much she's going to make babysitting. And then she's mowing the lawn, so she gets $10 for that. And she needs to have at least $100 to buy the graphing calculator. So we're going to say at least would be like greater than or equal to 100. All right? So then we'll solve by subtracting 10. So 5 times the number of hours is greater than or equal to 90. Divide by 5. So we get the number of hours is greater than or equal to 18. So she needs to work. So Joan needs to work 18 hours or more. So if we thought about that on a number line, we have 18 with a closed circle and then everything to the right. So if she works 19 hours, she'll have enough to buy it. If she works 20 hours, she'll have enough to buy it. But if she works 17 hours, she would not have enough. All right, last slide. Length of a rectangle is 5 times its width. So that means our width is W, and then the length is the other side. It has to be 5 times as long. The perimeter, so it means we're going to add all the sides, is at most 108. At most means less than or equal to. So our perimeter, you take 2 of the 5 W's and 2 of the W's. So we can say 2 times the 5 W's and 2 times the W equals our perimeter. Whoops, it's at most our perimeter less than or equal to 108. So 2 times 5W is 10W plus 2W is less than or equal to 108. Add your like terms and you get 12W is less than or equal to 108. Divide by 12. I don't need to flip my sign because I'm not dividing by a negative. So W is less than or equal to 9. So it says, find the greatest possible whole number dimensions. So W could be 9, or it could be 8, or it could be 7. So we could keep going down with W. So the greatest one would be a width of 9, which would mean our length would be 5 times as big, which is 45. And this is all in meters. Six more than 2 times a number. So 6 more means we're adding something. 2 times a number means 2n. 2n plus 6 is less than the same number increased by 20. So n plus 20. So we need to find the numbers that satisfy this. Again, get your variables together. So subtract your n. So we have 2n minus n is n plus 6 is less than 20. Subtract 6. So we get n is less than 14. So on a number line at 14, go in an open circle, everything to the left. All right, that's your lesson for today. Take these notes, make sure you filled in your guided notes, and work on your homework, which is on another sheet of paper. And then have a good weekend. You'll have a new lesson on Monday.